The financial advice you have been fed is not just wrong, it is a calculated form of economic sabotage designed to keep you subservient. Most people are operating on a blueprint for a world that no longer exists. They tell you to save $100 a month and wait 50 years to become a millionaire. They fail to mention that by the time you reach that milestone, $1 million will barely buy you a mid-size sedan and a month of groceries. In this video is the definitive breakdown of why your current money goals are dangerously small and how you must re-engineer your entire approach to income, investment, and time. Patience isn't a virtue, it's a financial death sentence. If you're still waiting for your turn, you've already lost. Today, we kill the slow wealth lie and replace it with high-velocity capital. Before we go any further, let's establish who you are. Are you a saver, hoping the system preserves your crumbs, or a builder ready to construct an empire? Leave your identity and your location in the comments so we can see exactly where the new 1% is rising. Let us begin with a cold, hard mathematical truth that the traditional education system is too cowardly to teach. In 1975, exactly 50 years ago, $1 held a specific amount of purchasing power. To command that same level of power in today's economy, you would need over $6.20. That is a six-fold decay in value. Now look forward. If you listen to the mainstream gurus who promise that $1 million retirement fund at age 67 is the ultimate prize, you are walking into a trap. Due to the relentless expansion of the money supply, that $1 million in 50 years will have the equivalent utility of roughly $170,000 today. You are spending your entire youth chasing a number that will leave you in functional poverty the moment you stop working. This is the silent tax of the average. The elite do not think in terms of nominal currency. They think in terms of purchasing power parity. If your goal is to live on $50,000 of passive income per year, you don't need $1 million. You need the future equivalent of what that lifestyle costs, which, adjusted for the reality of inflation, means you likely need a capital base of $24 million. The gap between what you are told and what is required is not a small margin of error. It is a chasm that swallows the middle class whole. To cross this chasm, we must stop focusing on the defense and start mastering the offense. There are 4 pillars to this transition. The first is the aggressive expansion of your income floor. Most people focus on the gap between their spending and their current earnings. This is a finite game. There is a limit to how much you can cut, but there is no limit to how much you can grow. Even a modest increase of $1,000 a month, if invested with the discipline of the 1%, transforms into over $10 million over a typical working window. But here is the elite perspective. Every dollar you earn and save today is not just a dollar. It is a seed that, through the law of compounding, represents $13 of future purchasing power. When you realize that a $200 weekend gig is actually a $2,600 investment in your future sovereignty, your motivation shifts from survival to empire building. Look at your current financial trajectory. Are you playing the game of the average, hoping the system preserves your pennies, or are you building the infrastructure of a visionary? Comment builder if you have committed to the offensive, or saver if you are still trapped in the defensive mindset. Let us see who is truly ready to upgrade. This brings us to the second pillar, the cessation of consumerist self-sabotage. The average person uses their small income to buy symbols of status they haven't earned. A $500 luxury belt is not just $500. In the context of the 1%, that belt cost you $6,500 in today's purchasing power at the point of retirement. A 3-year lease on a vehicle you don't need effectively robs you of nearly $250,000 of future wealth. The elite understand that time is the ultimate multiplier. If you start at age 18, your compounding coefficient is nearly 80x. If you wait until 28, that coefficient drops to 33x. That 10-year delay is not a 10% loss. It is a catastrophic reduction in your life's total financial output. The third pillar is the velocity of capital allocation. You must establish what we call a watermark strategy. Decide on a baseline of liquidity, perhaps $5,000, and every single cent that flows above that mark must be immediately deployed into assets or skills. Alternatively, you adopt the priority investment model. You set a hard target of investing $2,000 a month, and you force your lifestyle to fit into whatever remains. The wealthiest individuals I know do not invest what is left after spending, they spend what is left after investing. This shift in the order of operations is what separates the masters of the game from the spectators. But let us talk about the fourth pillar, the most critical one, and the one where I have personally invested millions. This is the skill acquisition engine. If you have less than $10,000 in the bank, the stock market is a distraction. The S&P 500 cannot save you if your base income is $30,000 a year. The highest return on investment in the known universe is not found in crypto, real estate, or gold. It is found in the software you install in your own brain. I want you to imagine skill acquisition not as a series of random facts, but as a complex machine. Most people fail because they are collectors of broken parts. They learn a little bit of sales, then a little bit of social media, then a little bit of accounting. They have a piston, a spark plug, and a steering wheel lying on the floor, and they wonder why they aren't moving. You don't have a vehicle until the engine is fully synthesized. You need the complete skill stack. For example, I once paid $750 per hour for 8 hours of one-on-one tutoring with an elite media buyer. To the average person, $6,000 for a few hours of conversation sounds like insanity. To me, it was the spark plug that ignited the rest of my machine. That single skill allowed me to scale advertising campaigns that generated hundreds of millions in revenue. I traded $6,000 for a permanent high-yield increase in my ability to command capital. Consider the mathematics of a single skill upgrade. If you spend $2,000 to learn high-ticket sales and that skill moves your income from $30,000 to $90,000 a year, you have just created a permanent $60,000 annual dividend for the rest of your life. That is a 3,000% return in year one alone. No Wall Street fund can match that. This is how you break the cycle of the average. You buy speed. You pay for the derivation of the formula so you don't have to spend a decade trying to invent it yourself. What is the one skill you know you need to master but you have been hesitating to invest in because of fear or ego? Is it sales, copywriting, capital allocation? Admit it to yourself in the community below. Sharing your gap is the first step toward closing it. The fear of spending money on education is rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of assets. Most people view money as the asset. The elite view themselves as the asset. Money is merely the fuel. If you are afraid to spend $5,000 on a high-level mastermind or a specialized course, it is because you do not trust your own ability to translate that knowledge into value. You are betting against yourself. When I was building my portfolio, I lived on nothing. I shared a bedroom long after I was making significant money. I drove a car that was a decade old and paid for in cash. I had no car payments, no luxury subscriptions, and no ego. Every excess dollar was funneled back into one thing: access. I paid for entry into rooms where the average person was a multi-millionaire. I didn't go there to flex. I went there to be the dumbest person in the room. I remember attending an elite gathering where the entry requirement was an 8-figure annual revenue. At the time, I was just beginning to see real traction. I sat there and listened to a man who did $35 million in e-commerce. I asked him how he stayed ahead. His answer changed my life. He had a mandatory experimentation budget. He forced himself to lose a certain percentage of his income every month testing new, unproven strategies. He wasn't paying for immediate profit. He was paying for data. He was paying to see around corners. I took that principle and applied it immediately. I tripled my advertising spend, not because I was sure it would work, but because I was willing to pay for the answer. That willingness to embrace uncertainty is what scaled my company from $300,000 a month to over $2 million a month in a matter of quarters. Most people are so afraid of losing $1,000 on a failed experiment that they miss out on the $1,000 breakthrough that lies just on the other side of that data point. The hierarchy of growth is clear. Level 1 is free information, forums, digital collectives, and deep dive videos on channel. This is where you build your foundation. Level 2 is low-ticket communities, programs under $500 that aggregate data and provide a peer group. Level 3 is specialized coaching and DIY plus models, usually between $500 and $3,000, where you get specific feedback. Level 4 is high-ticket access, the $5,000 to $35,000 range. This is where you are not just buying information, you are buying the time and the specialized intuition of masters. I spent most of my journey in Level 4. I was impatient. I realized that if I could give someone $30,000 to skip 5 years of trial and error, I was getting the deal of a lifetime. I would enter these communities and work for free for the other members. I would review their sales scripts and analyze their processes for hours, just to earn 1 hour of their time in return. I was a collector of mastery. I treated every person as a mentor and every dollar as a ticket to a faster lane. The average person is cheap with their money and expensive with their time. They will spend weeks trying to figure out a technical problem to save $100. The elite are expensive with their money and cheap with their time. They will spend the $100 in a heartbeat to buy back an hour of focus. Your wealth is a direct reflection of which of these two resources you value more. In the final analysis, wealth is not a number in a bank account. It is the distance between your current reality and your ability to generate value from thin air. If the global financial system collapsed tomorrow and all the numbers were reset to zero, the 1% would be the 1% again within 12 months. Why? Because they own the skill bridge. They own the synthesized engine of production. The average person is chasing the currency. The visionaries are chasing the capacity. As for those of you still watching, those who have stayed until the end, here is the final hard truth that most will never accept. Your lack of success is not a lack of opportunity. It is a lack of intensity. You are dabbling in the game of wealth while others are treating it like a war. You don't need more tips. You need more skin in the game. You need to be willing to feel the pain of a $5,000 investment that might not pay off for 6 months. You need to be willing to look like a failure to your peers while you are building your engine in the dark. If you are ready to stop spectating and start building, I want you to leave a mark of your commitment. Comment the words, "I am the asset" below. This is your secret password to let me and the community know you have moved past the consumer mindset and into the builder mindset. The road to the 1% is paved with the corpses of those who thought they could save their way to greatness. Do not be one of them. Like this video if it challenged your perspective, share it with one person who is currently trapped in the average, and subscribe to continue your transformation. The next step in your evolution is waiting for you on the screen right now. Click it, watch it, apply it. The bridge is waiting. Build it.